Pull! Pull! Pull!
AGT stage. A magician walks out with a massive saw. A woman lies down in a box. The saw cuts through the middle. The box separates. You can see the gap between her upper and lower body. Cameras show every angle. Judges are stunned. The audience goes wild, except everything about what just happened was a lie. The camera angles, the box design, the assistant's positioning. Even the judges' reactions were manipulated by perspective and timing. This video breaks down exactly how modern magicians split bodies on television. Not the old methods, not the basic versions. The advanced techniques used on shows like AGT, Britain's Got Talent, and viral social media performances. The methods designed specifically to fool HD cameras from multiple angles. By the end, the understanding of how camera magic works will be completely different, because what seems impossible on screen is actually carefully choreographed deception, exploiting how cameras see versus how human eyes see. Start with the fundamental problem magicians face today. In Houdini's era, you only had to fool a theater audience from one direction. Everyone sat in front of the stage, one viewing angle, control the sight lines from that angle, and the trick works. Television changed everything. Multiple cameras, different heights, close-ups, wide shots, slow-motion replays. Performers can't control which camera is broadcasting at any moment, can't ensure the audience only sees favorable angles. So modern magicians adapted. They don't try to hide methods from cameras, they use cameras as part of the method. They design tricks that look more impossible on camera than they do in person. They exploit how television distorts depth perception and spatial relationships. The body-splitting illusion is the perfect example. Live audiences see one version, television audiences see something different, and both think they're seeing the whole truth. The classic method everyone knows. The assistant curls their legs up, fake, feet stick out the other end. The saw cuts through empty space. This worked great for stage performances in the 1920s. Terrible for modern television. Why? Because HD cameras can see the difference between real feet and fake feet. They can catch the moment when the assistant shifts their body. They can reveal the compartment where the legs hide. Close-up shots expose what stage audiences never noticed. So magicians develop new methods. Methods that work specifically for cameras, that use camera limitations rather than fighting them. The first innovation is the thin model saw. The box is incredibly shallow, maybe 6 inches from front to back. The assistant lies down and fits exactly. No room to curl up, no space to hide. The camera shows the box from the side, confirms the depth. Seems impossible to fit a bent human body inside. Here's the trick. The assistant is contorted inside that shallow box. But not in the way audiences assume. They're not pulling their legs up vertically. They're shifting them horizontally, rotating their hips to an extreme angle so both legs lie flat against one side of the box while their torso lies flat against the other side. Picture it this way. Normal lying position has the body straight, head to toe in a line. The contortion version has the head and chest facing forward, but the hips rotated 90 degrees so the legs extend to the side, all still within that 6-inch depth, just compressed and rotated in ways that look impossible. Professional contortionists train for years to achieve this flexibility. The rotation required would injure most people, but specialist performers can do it comfortably enough to hold the position for the 3 to 5 minutes the trick requires. The camera angle matters enormously here. When shown from the front, the assistant appears to be lying straight. The leg rotation is invisible because it's happening horizontally, parallel to the camera's view. The depth appears consistent because the camera can't judge the internal positioning from that angle. When the box separates, cameras show the gap. But what they're actually showing is the space between the upper compartment containing the contorted assistant and the lower compartment containing mechanical feet. The camera angle makes it appear both sections are equally deep. In reality, all the human parts are in the top section. But that method has limitations. Close-up cameras can sometimes catch the contortion. Suspicious viewers can spot how the assistant's torso seems compressed. So magicians developed even more sophisticated approaches. The modern AGT method uses something called layered misdirection. Multiple deceptive elements stacked together, so even if audiences figure out one layer, 2 more remain hidden. Layer 1 is the saw itself. It looks like it's cutting completely through the box and the person. The blade descends. You hear the sound of cutting, see sawdust flying. The blade emerges from the bottom of the box. Reality? The saw never touches the assistant. The box has a gap in the middle, a space where the saw passes through without contacting anything human. The assistant is positioned precisely so their body parts don't extend into that gap. The sawdust and sound effects are added theater. The blade emerging from the bottom is just the blade continuing through empty space. Layer 2 is the separation. The box splits apart. Cameras show the distance increasing between the two halves. You can see through the gap. Some magicians even walk through the space between the separated sections. Reality? The separation is real. The gap is real. But both halves of the box still contain parts of the assistant. Remember the contortion? The upper half has the torso and the folded legs. The lower half has mechanical feet and an empty space. When separated, you're seeing the gap between human parts and props, not between two halves of a person. Layer 3 is the reveal. The magician opens doors on both halves of the box. The upper half shows the assistant's head and arms waving. The lower half shows feet wiggling. Both halves appear to contain a functioning human. Reality? The upper half absolutely contains the real assistant. They wave, they talk, they interact with the audience. The lower half contains sophisticated mechanical feet, not cheap Halloween props, professionally designed prosthetics with motors that create realistic movement, skin texture that looks genuine under stage lights, articulated joints that move naturally. These mechanical feet can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 for professional-grade versions. They're operated by the magician using hidden controls or sometimes by the assistant themselves, using their hands to pull concealed strings that make the toes move. Camera angles make the deception work. When filming the lower half, cameras position to show the feet, but not the internal structure of the box. The depth perception tricks viewers into thinking there's a full lower body attached to those feet, when it's actually just feet attached to a support structure. But even this method has evolved. Because viewers got smarter, magic exposure videos on YouTube, slow motion analysis, frame-by-frame examination, magicians needed something even more deceptive. Enter the rotational saw. This version became popular on social media and talent shows in the past 5 years. The assistant lies down, the saw cuts through, but then the magician rotates the lower half 180 degrees. The feet now point the opposite direction, then rotates it again and again, multiple rotations, while the assistant's upper body remains stationary. This seems to eliminate the contortion theory. How can you rotate legs if they're folded up next to the torso? How can the lower body spin independently if it's connected? The secret is magnetic coupling. The lower half of the box isn't connected to the upper half at all. They're separate units that appear connected because of precisely machined edges that fit together seamlessly. When the saw cuts through, it's actually just separating two pieces that were already separate. The lower unit, containing the mechanical feet, has a rotating base, like a lazy Susan mechanism. The magician can spin it freely because it was never attached to anything human. The rotation is real. The independence is real. But it's not rotating a human body. It's rotating a prop that was always independent. Camera angles sell this completely. Wide shots show both halves of the box. Viewers' brains assume they're connected because they look aligned. Close-ups show feet moving in the rotated section. The movement seems too natural to be mechanical. But remember, these are $20,000 prosthetics designed specifically to fool cameras. The magician often adds a dramatic element. After rotating the lower half, they'll reach into the upper box and have the assistant grab their hand, then reach into the lower box and appear to touch the legs. This creates the impression of continuity, of a complete body somehow impossibly split and rotated. Reality, they're touching the real assistant in the upper box and touching mechanical props in the lower box. The camera angle doesn't allow viewers to see that the legs being touched are rigid fiberglass with a thin silicone skin. They look real from 3 feet away under stage lights. They feel real to a quick touch, but they're absolutely not human. Now the truly advanced version, the one that's fooling audiences even after they know all the previous methods, the levitating split. The assistant lies on a thin platform, no visible box at all, just a person on a board. The magician brings out the saw, cuts through the middle. The platform separates. Both halves levitate at different heights. The gap between them is huge. The assistant's upper body is 3 feet higher than the lower body. Both halves rotate independently. Cameras circle. The entire setup showing all angles. This seems to break every explanation. No box to hide in, no compartments for mechanical feet. The assistant's body is visible the entire time. The separation is extreme. The levitation makes hidden support seem impossible. Here's the reality. The assistant is still contorted. But instead of hiding in a box, they're suspended by nearly invisible supports. Wire so thin it doesn't show on camera, painted to match the background, positioned at angles where camera depth perception can't detect it. The thin platform is actually 2 separate platforms that were never connected. One supports the real assistant in their contorted position. The other is a dummy platform with mechanical feet.
Amazing part of the trick, the assistant is split in half and made dizzy just for...
Both platforms can move independently because they're on different support wires. When the magician cuts between them, they're just moving the saw through empty space between 2 platforms that were always separate. When the platforms levitate to different heights, It's each platform moving on its own wire system. When they rotate, same thing, independent rotation of independent platforms. The camera work is crucial. Angles are chosen to make the wires invisible. Lighting is positioned to avoid creating shadows that would reveal the support structure. The circling camera move seems to show all angles, but actually only shows the angles where the wires are hardest to detect. The assistant's performance sells it. They maintain the illusion of connection. When the upper platform moves, they react as if they feel the lower platform moving. They look down at the separated lower body with appropriate concern or amazement. They wave their arms while the feet wiggle. All of it coordinated performance. Cost for this setup? Professional versions run between $50,000 and $200,000. The wire systems require engineering precision. The platforms need embedded motors for movement. The mechanical feet need advanced articulation. Their support structure needs to be strong enough to hold weight, while thin enough to be invisible. Only top-tier professional magicians use this method. It's seen on major television talent shows where the budget justifies the investment, where the production team can control lighting and camera angles precisely, where failure means humiliation in front of millions of viewers, so every element must be perfect. But there's one more layer, one more deception that operates above all the mechanical tricks: the psychological layer, the way magicians manipulate what audiences pay attention to. When watching a sawing illusion, where does attention go? To the saw cutting, to the separation, to the gap opening up, to the impossible sight of a divided human body. That's where the magician directs focus, through dramatic music, urgent commentary, theatrical gestures. What audiences don't focus on: the box construction, the platform design, the assistant's exact positioning, the subtle movements that happen before the saw appears, the moments between separating and showing the interior, the specific camera angles being broadcast versus the angles being avoided. Magicians call this time misdirection, not just directing attention to the wrong place spatially, but directing it to the wrong moment temporally. The critical moves happen during moments when audience attention is elsewhere. The mechanical feet are loaded during the initial presentation of the box. The wire supports are positioned while the magician is explaining the danger of the saw. The separation mechanism activates while everyone watches the blade descending. By the time audiences start analyzing what they saw, the method is already hidden. They're looking for explanations in the wrong moments, trying to figure out how the saw cuts without injury when the saw was never the real trick, trying to understand how the body separates when the body was never connected to the lower half in the first place. Television production amplifies this misdirection. Editors cut away from revealing angles, replay only the moments that look most impossible, cut out the setup and breakdown that might expose methods. The broadcast version is already edited to remove accidental revelations. Live audiences in the studio see more than television viewers, but even they miss elements because of distance, lighting, and attention direction. The front row might notice something the back row doesn't. The left side might see an angle the right side can't. But no single viewer sees enough to piece together the complete method. That's the genius of modern sawing illusions. They're not one trick, they're 10 tricks operating simultaneously. Contortion, mechanical prosthetics, separated platforms, wire suspension, camera angle manipulation, lighting design, audio misdirection, temporal misdirection, psychological direction, performance acting. Defeat one element and 9 remain. Figure out the contortion and you still can't explain the rotation. Spot the mechanical feet and you still can't explain the levitation. Detect the wires and you still can't explain how the upper body appears to react to lower body movement. The camera angle lied, but not in the way most people think. The lie isn't that cameras hide things. Modern cameras are too good for simple hiding. The lie is that cameras show objective truth. They don't. Cameras show exactly what they're pointed at, from exactly the angle they're positioned, with exactly the focal length selected, under exactly the lighting provided. Change any of those variables and the image changes. The truth changes. Magicians designing for television understand this deeply. They don't create tricks that work despite cameras. They create tricks that work because of cameras, that use the camera's limitations as tools, that exploit the difference between three-dimensional reality and two-dimensional broadcast. The body-splitting illusion looks more impossible on television than in person. Stage audiences have depth perception, can judge distances, can see from their fixed position. Television audiences see only what the camera shows, have no depth perception, can't look around the setup, are completely dependent on the broadcast feed. So magicians optimize for broadcast, Create methods that look perfect on camera even if they'd fall apart under in-person scrutiny from close range. Use camera angles to hide what matters and display what doesn't. Use editing to remove revealing moments and amplify impossible moments. The result is magic that seems to violate physics. That appears to show genuine impossibility. That leaves audiences with no rational explanation, even after seeing it multiple times. But it's not magic. It's engineering, psychology, performance, understanding how cameras work and how human perception works and how to exploit both simultaneously. So what's actually happening when a magician splits a body on AGT? A contortionist rotates their lower body while keeping their torso forward-facing. Mechanical feet worth $20,000 move in the lower section. A saw passes through a gap where no human parts exist. The box separates into sections that were never connected to each other. Camera angles show the gap while hiding the internal positions. Lighting makes wires invisible and prosthetics look real. Audio adds drama. The assistant performs as if genuinely split. Judges react with genuine surprise because even they don't see all the angles. Stack all those elements together and you get something that looks supernatural. That seems to violate the laws of physics that millions of viewers watch and can't explain. But every element is explainable. Every piece is understood. The only magic is how perfectly all the pieces work together to create an illusion that cameras broadcast as apparent reality. The camera angle didn't just lie. The camera angle, the lighting angle, the audio, the editing, the performance, the engineering and the psychology all lied in perfect coordination. That coordination is the real trick, and it's more impressive than actual magic would be. If this revealed something unexpected about how camera magic really works, subscribe right now. Next week explores levitation tricks and how magicians appear to float using methods designed specifically for social media and viral video. Drop a comment below. Which layer of deception was most surprising? The mechanical feet cost? The wire suspension? The camera angle manipulation? Share thoughts on what makes modern illusions work. Hit that like button for more breakdowns of how magic tricks actually function. The engineering, the psychology, the methods hidden in plain sight. And remember, when watching magic on television, the impossibility isn't in the trick. It's in how perfectly every element coordinates to make cameras broadcast a lie as truth. That's not supernatural, that's craft. And understanding the craft makes it more impressive, not less. See you in the next one.